Ohio tonight, I guess it makes sense to kind of pick up on what Melissa and Dan were talking about there a little bit, this whole idea of, Joe Biden from Scranton, Donald Trump from Park Avenue or Fifth Avenue. What's the message in Ohio? Republicans need Ohio to win. Is it China? What's the message tonight in Ohio?
Look, it's a great American comeback, and the way we're going to do this is with President Trump's strong economic policies. We've seen it where the president, he has delivered for the people of Ohio, where we've seen so many industries come back. You're talking about the manufacturing industry, the fact that we've seen the USMCA trade deal benefit not only the automobile manufacturing sector, but also the farmers and agriculture producers, because they're the ones that are benefiting. They've been able to export over $29 billion to places like China, to places like Mexico. So we feel, and Canada. So, it's because of the president's pro-growth economic policies that we've seen Ohio truly benefit, even when we're going through the global pandemic of coronavirus. And lately, we've seen the last 3 months, 400,000 jobs have returned back to Ohio. That's in contrast to Joe Biden, whose plans would destroy the economy and also obviously take us away from energy independence, something that the president's been able to accomplish as well.
Right, and it doesn't seem like the president necessarily has issues with those, blue-collar workers and people in that demographic as much as he might as we've talked about in the past, when you've been on in the suburbs, and whether it's Cleveland or Columbus or Dayton, especially with women voters. And I want to ask you, I was reading this article in the Associated Press where a state senator from Ohio, from right outside of Dayton, I believe, was asked about the president losing support among suburbans. And this is a Republican state senator, not running for re-election, but still says, well, that support hasn't ebbed, it's crashed, meaning the president's support in the suburbs. So what do you say to that? Do you try to win back those voters or just double down on some of the other voters that you were just talking about in a state like Ohio?
No, we're going to make inroads in the suburban area as well, and I'll tell you why. I've been on several of these Women for Trump bus tours. We've been on the road. I think it was in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin. I just came back from Florida talking to women. And what the common theme there was not only just the reopening of the economy, it was also about reopening up the schools safely and also about safety in their communities. They are seeing places like Portland and other cities where we've had the rioters, the looters come in, destroy small businesses, where it's been Democrat-led policies that have been very destructive in these areas. They don't like this idea of defund the police or redirecting resources away from the police, that similar to what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support. And so for talking about that message, I think has been incredibly important in able to tell them about, look, President Trump is about law and order. He's about defending the police. He's about keeping our communities safe. This is not the case with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And the mere fact is that, we talk about Scranton versus Fifth Avenue or Park Avenue. This is about weak versus strong. Joe Biden being the weak candidate who has basically aligned himself with the far left socialist branch of his party, and the president being a strong candidate fighting for Americans every day.
What about the Supreme Court, though, this looming battle that we're going to have over the next however many months about the next Supreme Court justice? In some of those areas, you have, to go back again to women voters in the suburbs, people who, by the numbers at least, might be more likely to be moderate and or slightly to the left on social issues like abortion. So does the president have some risk there? I know he's talked already today about 5 women that he wants to consider for the Supreme Court. We assume they would all be quite conservative. Is there some political risk in this back and forth over the next few months?
Sure. Well, first, we're mourning the loss of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I mean, she was a trailblazer, an amazing woman, someone that is an inspiration for, I've got 5 daughters, an inspiration for my girls, because, she was able to basically, be such a strong presence on the Supreme Court. With that being said, as we move to the next stage of this nomination process, the president has made it very clear he wants someone on the court who's going to interpret the law, not necessarily make the law. We don't need judicial activists on the courts. That's something that the president feels very strongly about. Our job is to ensure that those Supreme Court justices are focused on the interpretation of the law, be strict constitutionalists. It's who he he has picked. We've seen his record. We've seen the president's list. We're still waiting for Joe Biden's list. He's hiding that list. We don't know what type of nominees he would put forward, but based on his record of just associating himself with the radical left, our assumption would be that they would be probably the most progressive justices that he could possibly find.
Just a quick comment on timing, Mercedes, if you can. The president, I think, just said a minute ago that he'd like to see a vote on his pick before the election, presuming that he announces the nominee or his nominee on, say, Saturday. What about the campaign perspective on that? Because you could make the argument, I guess, and maybe it seems counterintuitive, but you could make the argument that wouldn't be the end of the world for the president to have this issue on the table when voters vote. Maybe you drive some conservatives who are reluctant to vote for the president back to the conservative camp. What do you say about the timing of this politically?
Look, at the end of the day, it's important to fill the Supreme Court vacancy. We've seen this happen 29 times in history where you've had an open seat during a presidential election, and every time, every single case, a president has nominated a person for the seat. So I think it's important to know that for us, it's more so what we're following the lead of the president. He feels it's very important to fill this vacancy with someone who is qualified, someone again who would interpret the law. And I think that's the priority right now, and working with the Senate to do so. And of course, the Constitution has made it very clear the president can make the nomination, and then following that with the Senate basically providing advice and consent. And right now we've got the president in place, obviously ready to do that, and a Republican Senate. And we know that the majority of Americans believe that we should be able to hold these hearings and get through this confirmation process. So it's going to be, we're going to keep fighting hard to get through this. And I think, at the end of the day, the president does feel that it is important to fill this vacancy.
All right, Mercedes, I'll probably see you on the campaign trail here over the next few weeks in one of these swing states. But good to see you again today.
Yes, I'll send you my calendar. Yeah.
Trump campaign. I'm sure it's quite busy. It's going to be a crazy, month plus.